All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Coach's Corner. It is your one-stop shop for everything and everything Big Frank's League of Men. And today, we've got manager highlight and one of the managers in this league that I think is a mainstay. A guy that has kind of settled and cemented himself in the Mount Rushmore of what we do. So I love Beers4All. Chuck, good to have you on, man.
Awesome to be on the legendary podcast.
It is becoming just that. I think it's it's your name has been mentioned more than a few times when we talk about podcasts, power rankings, all that. So to have the man, the voice, the manager behind Beers4All with us is really, really exciting. So I'm excited to chat with you a little bit and hopefully with these coaches corners, especially early on, is to get to know every one of the managers, to get you kind of some exposure to the league, some folks that might know you, that might not know you, and kind of pick your brain and talk a little bit about baseball, especially after we're starting a 2021 season. It's really exciting. Opening day was today. How'd you feel about opening day?
Uh, Not the best opening day, and from a fantasy and a Yankee fan perspective, but like I was saying before in the chat, this is the first time I've had MLB TV,
Ooh.
and I gotta say it's awesome. I
Yeah.
freaking love it.
I mean, it's scary. Like you can watch so much, like you can literally watch your fantasy team live.
Yeah, I had so you know I was living up in New York for forever basically, and never really had to worry about not being able to just turn yes on or whatever the channel the Yankee game was on. And last year, moving down to North Carolina, didn't have access to the games at all, and considering the shortened season, I just was like,
Yeah.
maybe next year I'll get it. And then I bought it today and was flipping back and forth between the Yankee game and the Brewers, watching my boy Woodruff get lit up in his first start of the season.
Yeah, it
But
felt like today, like Aces just got lit up. Like it wasn't a good day for pitching at all.
well, it's very short sighted of me, but considering that I wanted to draft Castillo for my first pitcher, I guess it's good that I ended up with Woodruff for today anyway.
It's that way. I mean, I think that's really as you look at this season, I think early on they there was this comment that like the balls weren't going to be juiced, but like there was a decent amount of power and like the pitchers didn't have any more of an advantage today. So I think more to come on that. But
Yeah,
glad that you're getting you're live streaming into every single game now, and you've got the bug. It's like a black hole of watching baseball.
I
With the
think I
TV.
can already tell my fiance is going to hate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you talk about like I like everybody to get to know behind the manager, right? So when did you start getting into baseball? Like what was like your inception on, baseball? Was it as a kid? Did you pick up as an adult? Like did you play it? Like what got you into it? Because you obviously you're really good at it. You're really good at managing it and you love fantasy. So I'm curious to see kind of what the inception and grassroots of Beers4All was.
Well, I've been playing baseball since I was a little kid. Played all the way up until my days with Shawston at Norwich. Played a couple of years there with him in college, and then after graduating and all that, started doing like beer league softball to kind of keep it going.
Yeah.
I never really got into. I thought about doing some wood bat leagues because I just love playing the game, but
Mm.
it's just I feel like it's a little just too competitive. And I just kind of want to go hang out,
Yeah.
have a few beers and just play. But
Hence the Beers4All.
it's the Beers4All, yeah.
Well, there's nothing better than the sound of a wood bat, though, especially when you hit the ball yourself. Like in a baseball game, it sounds great, but if you're actually using a wood bat, there's like nothing better
Uh,
than that sound in baseball.
I 100% agree. Me and a friend of mine from my high school team, we used to just get a bucket of balls, go with a wood bat, and just basically just toss each other entire bucket
Yeah,
and freaking connect, man. It feels and sounds so good.
I love that. I love that. And so, what position? Where'd you play? Like, what was your bread and butter?
Second and short, kind
Okay.
of bounced back and forth between the two. Um, Started at second, and then towards the end of high school, moved more over to short. College played a little bit of mainly short, but a little bit of both, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, I was always more of a defensive player.
Yeah.
Wasn't terrible hitter, wasn't a great hitter, but was always pretty solid on defense.
Yeah. That's a game is won and lost by defense, and I think as you get older, right? Like there's those that have the gift of the bat and those that don't, right? And if you have the
Yeah,
gift of the bat, it's like a whole different echelon of baseball, right? And that's what separates, I think, the pros. And you look at, I laugh so hard, like you look at, they're like, oh, this guy is 28. I'm like, God damn, he looks like a 50-year-old man compared to me, but these guys are so young, but like they're just mammoths of human beings. I think there's just that
it's
disconnect.
crazy.
Yeah.
I actually, because since I've moved down to North Carolina, I haven't joined any league or anything down here yet, like softball wise. And I was like, you know what, maybe let's check into a wood bat league. And I reached out to this guy, and I was like, you actually have to try out for the fucking team. And I was like, so what kind of like he's like, you'd be in like the 25 and up league, and I was like, yeah, 25. There's some kids that are like relatively close to college still at that point, you know.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what am I looking at? Are they throwing like freaking 70? Because I feel like I could probably get into the swing of that. But are they throwing like 90? Because
Yeah.
that, forget it. I'm not messing with that.
No,
Um,
you get to a point in your life where you don't want to be getting beamed with a 85-mile-an-hour fastball
yeah,
in your back.
and my cousin's husband, or his brother actually is the one that played in this league, and he was like, yeah, there's a lot of guys that are just kind of playing, just trying to have fun, but then there's some real beasts. Like he's like, there's some guys that are like washouts from like AAA and shit, or like maybe not AAA, but like minor leagues, like they didn't quite make it anywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound like a good fit.
Yeah, no, God, no. Oh my God. Well, let's go from reality, which is
Yeah,
like what is baseball, to fantasy, right? And that's where we are champions. I mean, Chuck, you're basically, you're the LA Dodgers, you're the Yankees of the league when it comes to making it to the playoffs, right? So last year, shortened season, top four, right? Top four finished for you last.
lost to Steezers in the
That's right.
finals.
That's right. So top four,
That's
you came in
that
second.
son of a B.
Son of a B. And then the year before, same deal, second
Lost.
to
Yep.
me, right? So you're in a new year, 2021, right? You've drafted, right? Forecast.
Yes.
Give me the forecast. Like you did your draft, kind of you're in your head right now. You're in like the youth of the season. Kind of where are you right now? How do you feel? Do you feel like you got a lot of work to do? Do you feel like you got a good base? Like where are you right now?
I felt like after the draft that I had a terrible draft, because I had a list of like probably 10 guys I really wanted to get, and I think I got three of them. Like a lot of guys that I was targeting.
Who's your biggest miss? Who's like the biggest one that you like? This was the year to get this person, you just didn't get him.
The so I like the way I kind of um, figure out my draft strategies. I decide who my like top two pitchers are going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then since I know we typically have a lot of like reaching for pitchers, I always am like, all right, if this is who I'm drafting, this is where I gotta go for them if I want them. So, and then I just kind of figure out my bats from that. And this year, like I was saying, I was, I figured I wasn't going to be going for any of the like top starters because I figured DeGrom and Cole were going to be gone.
Yeah.
Bieber, I thought about going for Bieber, but I just think in the first round,
Mm-hmm.
second round, even you got to get that elite
That's
batter
right.
too.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I was like, so that then it was looking like maybe um, Nula, but then I ended up targeting or wanting to go for Castillo. And then I think Harry got Castillo. I think, right?
Yeah, I think was it Harry? I can't remember. I can look it up.
Yes.
I can look it up.
So then I pit Woodruff. What I was originally going to do is I was going to go Castillo Woodruff. So once
Mm-hmm.
Castillo was off the board, I was like, all right, well, I'm going Woodruff, and then we're going to just have to improvise from here, I guess.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was kind of my first big miss, I guess.
Was there a sleeper you lost? Somebody that was like deep down, they're like, oh man, this person got nabbed right before I wanted them, or like someone jumped a few rounds early for somebody.
So I feel like this is probably a lot of guys in our league because we have such a New York oriented like group.
Yep.
I
Yep.
really wanted to grab Frazier,
Yeah.
but I was not going to grab him with like what did Max get him, like 100 picks or something earlier?
Yeah.
I think he. So I was thinking, all right, if he's going around 180 ADP or whatever, maybe around like my 160 range, maybe I can grab him. But yeah, it's just that would probably be the one sleeper I wanted
Yeah.
on offense. And a pitcher that I kind of wanted on offense, or not on offense, pitcher I kind of wanted not so much a sleeper, just as kind of a bounce back guy. Was I really wanted to get Paddock?
Sure.
Forgot who got him to. Was that Lauren? I think
Might
maybe.
have been. Yeah.
But yeah, those are a couple of the guys I was looking to get and ended up not getting. But
So when you're drafting, right, you kind of have this thought process, right? Do you lean in is it really where your draft pick is if you're going to go pitching heavy or hitter heavy, or is it really as you go through you kind of build into specifically because we know managers in this league that heavy index on one side or the other. So are you really kind of where you sit in ADP, like where you're going to be drafting and how you're going to be looking at your team, and you're kind of building around that, or as you're building your team, you kind of have this baseline of I need to go after X, Y, and Z.
I so I think what's this, the sixth or seventh season? I think
Yeah.
every season other than one or maybe two, um, always go for bat my first pick. I think one year because the way things were kind of shaking out, and I think I was drafting ninth. I think I grabbed a Grom one year.
Yeah.
Um, but usually I'm just to me it's just critical you get that elite bat in the first and maybe even the second round because they're playing every day. There's less injury risk, and there's so much upside with pitchers. Like I feel like if you know think about it a little bit, you can find some guys that maybe won't put up quite like Jacob DeGrom type numbers, but they'll put up numbers that can help you win the
Yeah.
categories every week.
Yeah.
So it's nice having the Degroms and the Coles for sure, but
Yeah.
it's to me it's not as critical as having the big bats.
I feel that. And I'm looking at top two. So you got Trey Turner, Freddie Freeman. You feel good about
Yes.
both of those? I mean, those are rocks. You feel like Trey's going to have the year. You think that Freddie's going to be, NL MVP caliber?
Yeah, so my strat I know I was joking around about it a lot, but it almost happened. Trout almost fell to me at 8. I mean,
Yep.
he was when he got to 7, I was like, "Oh my God, it's actually going to happen." And then my cousin Nick came in and got him, but he was my first pick in the event that he actually managed to fall there. And then my second choice was Turner, and then I think
Yeah.
Turner was going to be Story probably.
Yeah.
But Freeman, I wasn't planning. I don't think I think this is the first year I've had
Uh-huh.
Freeman.
Yeah, it's interesting when one of those guys falls into your lap and you've never had him.
Yeah,
That one to
he
me is like, and
was.
especially Freddie Freeman. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I got him at like what was my second pick, 17, I
17.
think.
Yeah.
I figured for sure he'd be gone. I thought about going Story. I thought about going Story because he fell so late. If he was there, like on my third pick, I would have taken
Hmm.
Story probably.
Yeah.
But for a second pick, I would have been like, all right, whatever. I have two shortstops in my first three picks, but we'll figure it out.
Plus, you got Glaber at 4, right? So you still rebounded,
Yeah,
and you got another shortstop. So I mean, your
yeah,
infield. I mean, and you look at that, you're pretty. I mean, I think I commented on the first one. Your infield. If you think about it, it's got Devers, Torres, Freeman, Turner. Right, those are the top guys, and then you've got guys
yeah,
like Bohm in Philadelphia. Like you've got infield wise, and even outfield. Like I think you're pretty solid from a hitting perspective, right? So
yeah.
I think you kind of landed, by going hitter heavy. I mean, you really went one pitcher in Woodruff early, and then realistically, you didn't reach again until
I think
Sonny,
I think yes, Gray was my next
80
pitcher.
picks in. So
So Gray, as a Yankee fan, it is to me it is hard to be enthusiastic about him. But
yeah,
I was looking at his stats from last year, the year before. The last full season he had a great season. And last year, I think he had basically a really good season, other than like one or two rough starts that really kind of threw his numbers off a little
yeah.
bit. So I think he's going to end up being a solid number 2. Just provided this injury he's dealing with right now doesn't turn into something major.
Yeah. Listen, I think your first, you look at your first 10 picks, right? With the exception, the only one that's like a risky reach, and I think you made the right calls, like a Chris Bryant, right? But your top 10, really, you went with safety, security, and guys that you know are going to be fairly
Yeah,
consistent. And if they fall off a little bit, you're still looking at marginal errors. So I think in your top 10, you didn't really roll the dice. And even after 10, I mean, you're really not rolling the dice a ton. You picked up a lot of solid guys. I think Amir Garrett is the steal. I mean, you got him at the right time. You didn't wait too long, but you probably went a round or two earlier because I was looking at him literally, I think 16, 17. So you went in 15. But being as lights out as he's been, I look at your draft and you've got to feel, you got to feel pretty good.
yeah. I didn't feel great at first. The more I kind of looked at it, I was like, I didn't get a lot of guys I was going for. But, this is actually looking like a pretty solid offense. And then I've got pitching that if it all works out the way I'm hoping it does, it should be
Yeah.
solid enough.
Well, and that leads me to, as we talk about management style, right? It leads me
Yeah.
to you, and you've coined a very popular phrase, and it was a while ago it was coined, and it continues to stick primarily to a lot of managers, but to you more than others, right? Talk about like managerial agility, right? It's talking about going in, doing the diligence, working through. So as you look at your team, where's the one gap that you're going to waiver wire, you're going to trade, you're going to think about? If you were looking at that right now, where's your opportunity? What's something that you're focused on as a manager, right? And it could be just generically thinking about the team in general, but it could be something specific as, hey, I'm going to really focus in on this. This is something where I'm going to be paying attention to it in the first few weeks of the season.
The pitching for sure.
Yeah.
I think offense wise, I think for the most part, the one thing I'm a little worried about on offense, but this is where the nice thing about having Trey Turner is I'm a little worried about the speed in some
Mm-hmm.
ways, but pitching is to me where there's always a handful of guys that don't get drafted or you never heard their name before, and then they end up having like a freaking, not necessarily Cy Young
Yeah.
caliber, but they have like a season where they throw like to a low 3 ERA, great whip, great numbers, and it's just like, oh, where the hell did this guy come from?
Do you think stolen bases, I mean, saves, it's a whole other story. I think there's a lot of guys out there. Do you think stolen bases really makes or breaks a championship nowadays? Like when you think about you as a champion manager, someone that's kind of gone through the ringer, that's gone year over year, do you need to have a really strong base? Do you need to have somewhere in the middle where you're competing, or can you punt on it and get away with it?
I mean, I think there's a category I think you can totally punt on is saves, steals. I could see you making a case for it, um, but to me, it would be a dumb category to punt on because you can. I think the best way to approach it is to draft just a bunch of guys that chip in, maybe 5 to 10 steals, and maybe even a couple that are maybe 10 to 15. And then if you can get one dude like a Trey Turner that's just like a burner, uh,
Yeah.
it's really, to me, it's one of the more predictable categories. So if you get enough of those kind of medium speed kind of guys, and then you throw in one really fast dude, it should be in theory a somewhat easy category to win.
That's an interesting way to
It's
put it. It's a
definitely
predictable
it's
category
to me it's the most predictable category. Um,
because you can kind of
because
assess a guy's speed. You can assess the kind of team he's on, where he hits in the lineup. It's a really
yeah,
good point I never thought about. Like, can the like home runs, that guys are power, but like they can be like a bad year, they can have off year. But a speed
yeah.
guy, they don't really lose their legs, and you kind of see that.
No, and if they get on base from an error or they walk, whatever, they don't even have to get a hit necessarily. If they get on base and there's no one on front of them, that's odds are they're going to get a stolen base if they're one of the faster guys. So
Yeah.
um, and it's to me it's become somewhat more of a valuable stat now. Like that's why, like when we were going into the draft, when we didn't know where we were in the order, I really wanted to be in the 1 through 5 range, just because you have Tatis
Mhm.
out there who just they hit for crazy power, and they're also going to steal possibly 30 bases,
Yeah.
or more even, who knows. But yeah, so that's to me nowadays with the way the game's going, where there's not as much running. It's just it's more. When I was doing my mock drafts, I was having a hard time if I didn't get a couple of the guys earlier in the draft to actually piece
Yeah.
together some decent base stealers.
And that's where, I mean, that would have been interesting if you got Trout, because like Trout, I mean, he'll steal a few, like 5, maybe 10
Yeah,
tops, right? But he used to be a 25 base stealer, right? That's the big knock on Trout now. Like he doesn't
yeah,
have that piece of the puzzle. But like to your, like, how do you pass on
you can't.
potentially the generational talent in the game, right? I struggle at 2. So every draft I did, I had Trout until the day of the draft. I said, okay, I might have to bite the bullet and do Acuna. I might
All right,
have to
so
do it.
yeah, so it's one of those, like I would like to own Trout at some point one of these years before it's like when he's like 40 and he's getting drafted at like 100. It's like, all right,
It's like a
man,
pool
Trout, who
hose. He's at the
cares?
bottom of the draft. Um, No,
So
that's the one that like I go back to, as you think about your style, you do some pretty intensive kind of research. You're doing a lot on the waiver wire, right? But you assess trades in a pretty unique way. Like as you think about your team holding guys, putting into play, like what do you assess when you think about trading, when you think about engaging, looking, do you target a specific guy like, hey, I want to get this championship caliber guy? Or you're saying, hey, I want to go get a category? Are you forecasting a guy's going to get hot and you can buy him? Like, how do you think, is it case by case? I'm curious if you have like a way you think about going out, because that goes back to that managerial agility that you do so well, right? How you think about assessing talent and like what you're thinking about and how to move the needle, like move your guys and things like that. So I know it's always, you're trying to get the most that you can, but what do you think about when you start looking at like the trade market and how you got to maybe go out and look for a guy like a Trout? Like what would you do to assess that?
Um, um, I feel like trading is like a weak spot for me, honestly, because I feel like I wait too long, or I'm not aggressive enough with it. So, um, I like something I kind of have a hard time with sometimes is like recognizing when, like, all right, so and so, I drafted this guy third round and he's clearly having a terrible year. Is it time to just cut him loose at this point? Or am I, should I trade him? This guy is trying to get, send me this offer for him, and the guy that he's offering would definitely help me. But at the same time, like if this guy comes back and actually gives me third round, production, like it's going to be a
So you
trade.
get major baseball FOMO. Like you get major, like if this guy, like do you think, I think, and I'll let you answer it, right? Do you think that that's super common, that guy, like you idealize your draft picks? Most managers idealize their draft picks.
I, um, I think so. I think probably a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I definitely like. There's like I think this is honestly one of the first years I came out of the draft and was like, oh Jesus, this was not good. Like I feel like every other year I come out, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, that's like, oh my god, this is the team.
And you've been around for it. Do you think, and it could have just been where you were in the draft and stuff. Do you think that 12 teams made it a little bit more difficult? Do you think that the expansion roster made it a little bit more shallow? I mean, you look at the teams, right? Do you think that there's a little bit more of a thin line on terms of you were able to steal somebody, or you didn't have to reach as much? Because I think in this draft, if you wanted to get somebody you wanted, you saw a lot of reaching because there were 12 guys. Do you feel that there's a little piece of that here?
I think it was definitely a little harder, for sure. And to me, it's hard. I feel like it's hard to draft in our league, or it's hard to have a plan and kind of stick to it because I feel like people are just so all over the map the way they draft in our league.
Yeah.
Like, and like I was saying, if you want pitching, you really like say you want a guy, you realistically you probably got to grab him 2 rounds before where he's actually going ADP wise because they just go so quickly.
That's right.
So it's that to me is the hardest part with our league is to predict because there's so many people in our league just go totally off the path. They're like, oh, this guy's got an ADP of 150. I'm grabbing him at 17. Like
And that's
it's
yeah,
all over
it's
the
a
place.
it's a good point.
It's hard to plan for it. So
Yeah.
which in a way is actually it's a little stressful, I guess, when you're doing it. But at the same time, it's actually kind of cool because then you're like, oh, okay, I gotta like totally like adjust on the fly here and
Well,
totally.
I think I do think, and I think this draft and other drafts too. I think every draft has gotten a little bit more intensive like that. But I do think they have gotten like more competitive, right? It's really like
Oh,
you want to go
sure.
get a guy, right? And some of these people that you're attached to, right? You reach. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I know a lot of managers are. So I do think it's a very unique to our league because some of these major, you look at some of the leagues where they're guys that are super professional. You look at those like tenured managers that have been doing this for like 100 years. They're putting $1,000 on the line every year on these leagues. They don't take the stretch pick. They're going statistically. I need to get this guy for the value pick. I can't stretch because the value is worth so much as it is. Here, we're still playing for money, right? But I
Yeah.
think that there's a little bit of that like more fun, competitive, like risk taking, risk kind of specific kind of drafting, which I agree with you. I think it makes it a little bit more fun.
It makes it more fun and also like it's like in a way it also is like god freaking damn it, I really wanted these couple of guys like holy shit he's gone already like who am
Yeah,
I gonna draft now.
yeah. I
uh,
couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So last thing, as you think about this year, you think about the league, you think about where we're at, right? You saw the draft, you saw the teams, you kind of digested a little bit. Um, Anything you're looking forward to? Anything you're worried about? Any teams you're looking over your shoulder at, or anything about the league that you're thinking about as we get into the first week of the season, as we start to break in?
I, it's I think the league has gotten to the point where I feel like everyone is very solid.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any week where you're looking at it like, oh, that's an easy win. I mean, I think every week is going to be a challenge and a battle. Um, and there's some teams, I guess, that I look forward to just from the rivalry standpoint. Like I like to embarrass Potentia every once in a while when I can.
Yeah.
And me and Jarman kind of go back to over the years we've had some good intense matchups. So and I'm definitely looking forward to getting Steez this year to kind of avenge the loss of the championship.
You got to go back and you got to punch back early. Do you have him early in the season? I didn't look at your schedule. Do you have
I
him?
see that's like I haven't really looked at my schedule at all, so
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Oh my goodness.
And then there's my cousin Nick. I gotta show him. I gotta welcome him to the league a little this year. I gotta.
Smack him around a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we got a matchup in week 3, and then you've got Potentia week 4, week 5. I'm just looking at this. You got Frank, so you got a decent kind of run coming up. I'm trying to see when you get some of these other guys. You get your cousin in week 6, so not too far away. First few weeks, you got some good matchups here, but I think it's I completely agree with you. I think it's more so than ever. It's each team has its own unique strengths, and you've got to be the well-rounded teams that are complete. I don't think there's any fully complete team yet. There's teams that are close. There's teams that on paper could do it, but I don't think anybody's complete yet.
Yeah, it's something I have definitely learned over the past few seasons. Is I used to think if you don't have a good draft, you fucked. Like that's get it done draft day. If you have a bad draft, then you screwed United. But it's a long season. Lots of guys you don't think are going to end up in waivers end up there. A couple of trades, guys come out of nowhere on the waiver wire. So just gotta always be out there looking.
Yeah, for sure. So I love it. Last question, and you might answered it earlier, right? So I always try to pick around the inception of team names because we've had them around for a while. You talked a little bit about wanting to just have some beers as you're going to the game, but Beers4All. Anything around the team name, how it incepted, how you got it started when you joined the league?
No, Austin. So Austin reached out to me the first year. I'm pretty sure it was the first. I don't know if they had the league before that, but I'm pretty sure it was the first year of the league. Austin was like, "Hey man, we got a spot. Do you want to jump in?" I was like, "It was literally the second time ever for me doing fantasy." I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." And I feel like he asked me like a day or two before the draft or something. So I was like, "Holy shit, I have no idea what to do for a name." I was still at the time didn't really know I was still kind of developing all my strategy and the way I kind of go about stuff on it. But yeah, I was just like, I don't know, beers. I love my beer, and it was kind of just something quick I came up with, and then I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll change it eventually. I'll think of something good and change it. But I'm a superstitious guy, and it's been working. So
it's been working, man. I love that. I love that. Literally 2 days before the draft, you're in, and then what did it take you? 2 years to get a ring? 3?
No, it took me. I think it took 3 or 4.
Okay.
Because the first year I lost to German in the finals. Second year, I made the playoffs, but I think I lost to Nick or Frank maybe.
Uh-huh.
I lost to Nick or Frank again. I think one of them. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took me a few years. It was one of those things like where I kept on like coming close, but just couldn't quite get there. So.
Yeah. Listen, you've gotten there, and the thing is, you get there constantly. You talk about I'm in the playoffs, I'm in the finals, I lose in the last game of the year. Listen, getting to the last game of the year is as much of a battle as anything else. So you gotta hold your head pride. We joke around, but like the fan base looks for consistency, right? So these managers that go up and down, make the playoffs, don't last place one year, first the next. Calling out some of our other elite managers, but. Huge kudos to you to continue to always be in the winner's circle one way or another.
I'll take being the Yankees who are always in it, than the Red Sox that have a year and then they're in last place the next year.
I love anytime you can dig on the Red Sox and put them down. That and the Mets. Anytime you can do that, always a good way to
sure.
put the dagger.
Especially especially with I think is there anyone in our league that's not either Yankees, Mets, or Red Sox? I feel like we're all Yankees, Mets, or
I
Red
have a
Sox, right?
feeling that that's the case. I can't. I'm
Pretty
trying to look at
sure.
this list. I don't think so. I think those are the big three.
I think so. I think it's Yankees, Mets, and then we got those New England folks
Fucking
up
fucking
there.
weirdos. Oh my god, Jesus. Well, that's awesome. I mean, Chuck, this is awesome. I think this is the beginning of another great year. I'm glad that I got to chat with you as a first interview here and kind of just talk through the season, talk through the draft. I think, your insights will be welcomed here every week. So we'll continue to have you on and to have your voice of steady reason and kind of fantasy expertise. But thanks for coming on. And I look forward to kind of seeing what the team does and how the rest of the year goes.
For sure, man. So I love how you guys have been doing these, podcasts. I think it's an awesome idea to kind of start getting everyone else on here.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So we'll catch up with you soon. Good luck in week one. We will see where the team goes. And for all, Big Frank's League of Men, Coach's Corner, we are signing off for the night. We'll catch you all real soon.
All right.